Hey guys, this week we feature Jason Thompson, Joe Wells, and John Agee of Vast Robot Armies to tell us the origin of the unusual name, how they all met. We revisit some old sitcoms, we get a recipe for some dank-ass nachos, we talk about Mothman sightings and recording their latest album with Jordon Zadorozny of Blink with a Star, and having Kellii Scott from Failure on drums. I throw in a story or two as well. So follow them on social media at Vast Robot Armies. Give us a follow at Performance ANX on Twitter and Instagram if you want any merchandise, which is pretty awesome. Check it out at performanceanx.threadless.com. And pay close attention to this one because it gets really busy really fast. Enjoy Vast Robot Armies on Performance Anxiety.
This is Vast Robot Armies on Performance Anxiety. Like that, or like what
that sounded like a question, Joe. You didn't do that right.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused on what the delivery is here.
This is Vast Robot Armies. How you doing, Mark?
Doing great. Now that I'm off of work. How you guys doing?
I hear that.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
I hope I wasn't bothering you too much at work.
I was creeping your profile, and I thought you did like a sports show or something.
I did. Well, all right. I'll give you a brief history of my podcast history, I guess. I started off writing for on the side for a blog, and it was all about the Washington Redskins. I'm not a big Washington Redskins fan, but I'm a big college football fan. And my buddy started writing. My buddy Mike is a big Redskins fan, and he started writing for this blog. Draft time was coming up, and they're like, hey, we want some profiles of some of the guys that are coming up in the draft. So he didn't know much. He's like, you want to do it? You know, we'll post it under your name. And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I try to throw a bunch of humor into it, and they liked it. So they said, hey, we want you guys to do a podcast. So we started doing a podcast based on DC sports. We got a former Redskin to co-host with us, and got picked up by the local ESPN affiliate. And so they're putting it out for us. And then they sold the company, and that went completely away.
Okay.
So a friend of mine out in LA said, I mentioned it to him that it was going away, and he was like, oh, that's awesome. Oh, thanks, asshole. So I was like, he's like, no, I want to do a podcast with you. Okay, sure. So he's like, I got a buddy of mine. He's a producer for Comedy Central, and I think we could do a comedic sports podcast. So
cool.
Yeah, so we started doing that, and then my buddy Mike ended up leaving because his work was getting a little too demanding, and he just didn't have time. So it ended up being the three of us. And then we did it we did exactly 100 episodes of that one. We did about 103 of the first one, 100 of that one. And then right around, we got into the late 90s episodes, and they're like, we decided we're going to reboot it because we only talk sports like a third of the time. The rest is all BS and shit, stuff. Because
I think as many podcasts are, they begin about a topic and quickly trail off. There's a podcast I listen to that's supposedly about horror films, but they talk about everything. So
yeah. Well, we decided instead of just keep continuing to go on with this charade of a show, we're just going to take like a month or so off. We're going to throw out other ideas to each other and just kind of figure out how we want to reboot it, and then we'll start it off as something completely different. That way we don't... Because if somebody's looking for a podcast and they want humor, they look at 8 Ball Sports Show, they're thinking sports. And, our stats were completely made up. Half the time we were talking about what was going on the set of my buddy's show, and it's just, most of the time it just wasn't about sports anyway. So,
gotcha.
We weren't pulling in the audience that we were trying for, I guess. So we're going to reboot it. Meanwhile, cool. I started doing this one. And I've got about 60 episodes out of this one. So,
yeah, I've listened to a couple episodes in the last couple days.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, I listened to the Alan Johannes episode.
Oh, that was great.
That kind of, honestly, I was aware of who he was, but it sent me down kind of a rabbit hole.
Oh, man, you can just go onto his Instagram page and you go down a rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah. Well, I ended up watching that film on Prime.
Oh, yeah.
Which was fantastic.
It really
was.
With
all the Cornell and Hami interviews.
Yeah, and it's
very heavy, but very, very good.
It really was. It was very good. I didn't actually get the chance to watch it until after I interviewed him.
That's cool.
So
I actually referenced one of your podcasts, Kellii, where we did the drum tracking, and it was on yours when he was talking about the Jenny Lane story, wasn't he?
Yes.
I love that. So
and then he saw him like in his hometown or something.
Oh yeah. The best part of it resonated with me so much because it's like I was an only child, but at the same time, the concept of brothers, especially being close in age, just like find it hilarious. And when
not only did I sleep with her, but the whole band
did. Oh my gosh, that. Do you know the weird thing is? Those first few episodes, that was probably the third or fourth episode I had recorded and done. I recorded a bunch back to back, bang, 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 got them all done. I was trying to get 10 done before I started releasing them.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, well, I got like 3 or 4 done before I could even really listen back to them. And so I listened to them. The first one was Steve Turner from Mudhoney, and then I did Jordon and Kellii on, Robert Roth, and then Shea Ahmed Dorval. And as I was listening to them, I realized that as soon as I or anybody else backed a little bit away from the microphone, I had a noise gate on here on this program somewhere, and as soon as they backed away, it clipped it. And so each of those episodes, there's gaping holes in those. So I had to stitch them all together to try to make some kind of cohesive show out of it. And I was so pissed off because there was so much in there that...
As you would be.
Oh, yeah, because I'm sitting there freaking out going, oh, shit.
You lost a little bit of content.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, my God. And I didn't even know there was a noise gate. I'm trying to figure out... I'm like Googling, why is my stuff not working? Why is all the stuff getting clipped off? And it said, oh, did you check the noise gate? I'm like, where? There's no noise gate button on this thing. So you got to go this and check that. I'm like, oh, my God. So then I had to do some tests because I had used this program for the sports show and never had a problem with it. But I'm always speaking directly into a microphone, and my buddies record their end on their, in LA, and then they send me the file, and I just made the two in the computer, so it was never a problem. Right. So once I started recording other people and myself, just trying to look at my notes and moving around, it just became an issue. I'm like, oh, jeez. So I finally found it and figured out what was going on. And then it became too sensitive. So then I've got all kinds of background noise. And I think 60-something episodes in, I think I figured it out.
Well, based off of what I listened to, you stitched it up pretty well.
Oh, thank you. It's just, it was so sad when I would pull up the file and you see all these waveforms and then a flat line for
little dips.
Yeah. Oh, not even dip. Yeah. It was just beep, flat line for like 30 seconds. I'm like, oh God.
Man, that sucks.
Yeah, and I had Robert Roth, and then he did a lot of stuff with Jim Carroll and all. So that was I missed like half of that was gone. So that sucked. But anyway, so I've got all 3 of you guys on here tonight. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I wasn't exactly expecting that. That's very rarely am I able to get everybody in the band together.
It worked out nicely. It's so nice that Joe decided to wear a tank top to the podcast.
Yeah, right? I could have pretended and said my camera was messed up too, but
there's never a reason for a guy to wear a tank top to a podcast, Joe.
There's no video on a podcast. It's a podcast.
But I'm looking
now
at
everybody has to know that.
But now they know.
Yeah, now they all know.
Now I kind of feel like I should take my shirt off.
There we go.
Hey,
Just
man,
a couple
do it.
buttons. Just
Do
a
it.
couple buttons.
Just let it breathe a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting tempted. We'll see. We'll see how what kind of a turn this podcast takes as it goes.
All right.
So, all right. So, you guys are vast robot armies. Now, before we get too deep into anything,
Jason has the most interesting accent, so.
Oh, do I
That's
now?
true. I mean,
perfect. Well,
and VRA was a thing before we were here with you. So
All right. fine.
I'll never
You should
forget
do
the
the
time
honors.
my mom was like, "Is he British?"
We'll get into accents at some point in time. I have a theory about how well John could pretty much own all of Pembroke because of his accent. Basically.
oh, sweet. But I prefer
Hey, I'm
to
dying
do
to
that
go
at the
back.
end.
Yeah.
All right. So now you guys are at this point going to have to introduce yourselves to everybody, since I have all three of you, and it's going to be all of Vast Robot Armies. So who do I have on the line with me?
Got Jason Thompson, and I'm one of the singers, guitarists, and keyboardists of the band.
John Agee.
and Joe Wells.
All right. You guys just hang around. So,
Yeah, we just hang around.
Yeah.
Utility guys. We
That's-
do everything from change light bulbs and
nice.
change out tape reels,
Take out the trash.
every once in a while.
Apparently, that's my new job. As I'm taking out the trash.
All right, man. What are you guys drinking? I see.
I'm drinking this lovely hazy IPA that Joe left at my apartment last night, actually.
It's exactly what I'm drinking.
Oh man.
It's from Offshoot Brewing Co. It's it's called Relax. It's a hazy IPA that they do. It's delicious.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Jordan?
not big into IPAs, but I'll give it a shot. I do like
This
ghosts.
one's this one's a little different. The hazy's a lot more I don't know, fuller bodied, I guess. A little muted on the bitterness.
Oh, see that?
Well,
Pretty good.
the style came from New England, and it's it still has all the flavors of the hops, but it's not as bitter. So
Oh, see that's good. 'Cause that's what
it's kind
pisses me
of
off on
catered
IPAs.
to non-IPA drinkers, I would say that. But
You might dig it.
That's definitely me because that's what turns me off is the bitterness. I like sours.
oh, me
Huge
too.
on
I
sours.
love them. Yeah, we had some good sours up in Pembroke, actually.
Yeah, so you guys were just up in Pembroke with former podcast guest and occasional podcast co-host Jordon Zadorozny's studio.
Right, just a week
we
and
were.
2 days ago.
Man.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that means there's some new music coming out.
There is. So we were up there working on 12 songs for about 8 days. And we're just in the beginning stages of mixing right now. Like Jordan's got shows coming up, so we're not harassing him about that at this point. But
I'll harass him for you. I got
like the day after his shows, be like, mixes. So how the mix is coming along?
It hasn't come to harassment yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 12 songs in 8 days. That sounds really hurried. Is that the way you guys
Yeah.
normally do things, or?
Well, we were fortunate enough to have the drum tracks already finished, so we just skipped over drum days basically.
Yeah.
That's because you guys had another former podcast guest, Kellii Scott, doing the drums, right?
Correct.
Now, did
And
he-
he did his tracks in LA, so
Okay, that was what I wanted to know. And so he just, what do you guys send him for him to do the drum tracks?
So we sent him stem files basically from the demos that we had done. And then he and an engineer down there named Gabe kind of worked on like weekend sort of things where they grab like 3 songs and then figure out of the demos what was most in time to the click. And then he would play it and straighten it all out. And then we eventually re-engineered everything around his drum tracks.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Yeah.
So is there a reason in particular you guys chose Kellii?
I don't think there's any one specific reason. Like for the last 2 records, we've been working with a guy named Chris Metcalf who plays in a band called The Life and Times,
Right. Yeah.
based out of Chicago. We've known Chris for years and been fans of his work. This whole record, we kind of went into it and we wanted to change things up because we've been doing, like the last 2 records, we'd go to Chicago. We'd all meet up like every 18 months or so. We'd all kind of surface and start like emailing each other saying, all right, we got a bunch of songs. And then, I'll throw them back and forth to John and Joe, and we'll work on vocal ideas and flesh them out. And then we'd all meet up. And we'd meet up with Chris and Alan Epley and Eric Abert, work on the records. And we'd usually have 2 days of like jamming with Chris. So it was more of an organic sort of thing. But we really wanted to change this time. Like, I think we wanted to kind of challenge ourselves. Because, after you do, like, I'd done 4 records with Alan at this point. So I was just like, and I love Alan, in case he ever listens to this and says, what do you, whatever. But it was like, and he understood. It's like, just sometimes, you need to kind of like throw yourself into the fire and kind of like, just see what you're capable of in a different way.
Yeah, you need some kind of external stimulation, something that's going to change things up for you, move you forward.
Exactly. And with Kellii, like, I knew that he did stuff like this. And there's an appeal with Kellii because he's a very different drummer than Chris. Like, Chris is an awesome drummer. He plays behind the beat, like, incredibly well. Kellii kind of tends to have a natural push to his drumming, which is great, and it really lends itself well to our stuff. Like, it drives it a little bit more, so I was really into that idea.
Okay. So how did you guys hook up with Jordon in the first place to get everything going? Because you used him on Dinner Music, too, to mix, right? Was it to mix?
Yeah, it was to master.
There you go.
Yeah, it's interesting because, and I was talking to Jordon about this while we're up there, and I didn't really like, I grew up in Canada and in Ontario, so, I'm well versed with the can rock thing that's been going on since like, late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
And I'd kind of heard of Blink of the Star, but it wasn't until like mid 90s, and it was some other friends of mine from Kansas City, because I've always had a connection with Kansas City, Missouri. And as far as some of my old bands, we'd go down there and tour. And they're like, there's an awesome band up there you got to go see. And they referred me to Blink of the Star. So he was always kind of on my radar. And I just found it ironic that I had to hear about it from someone in Middle America. I was telling Jordon, like, he's got a real interesting fan base down there. Like, everyone's dialed into his stuff, like right to Sheloom, Blink of the Star. Like, they know who he is.
Yeah, it's funny because I've found him through there's a record store down by my house when I lived in New Jersey, and they would have all kinds of promos and stuff there, and I was a big Failure fan, and they would have all these promos and used CDs from the local college radio stations, and they would all be real cheap, and so they would have boxes against the wall. They would have literally thousands and thousands of CDs you just thumb through, and I picked one up. I guess it was just the name was intriguing, so I picked up Blink of the Star and I looked on the back, and I saw Ken Andrews on there, Greg Edwards, and Kellii. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get this, because when I find a band that I like, I'm a completist. If any project they're involved in, I'm like, I got to grab it. And so that's how
this sounds familiar.
Yeah. So I picked up Bourgeois Kitten, and I just love that album. And years later, when social media started actually becoming a real thing, I started throwing out friend requests to some bands that I like, just to try to follow them and keep up with some of the things that they were doing. Because bands like Blink or the Star, if you're not searching for them, you're not hearing what's coming out. And so I figured the best way for me to stay, in the loop with them is to see if I can get a friend request with them and keep track of them that way. So I sent one to Jordon, and he accepted. And one day he threw out this. It was a YouTube video. He posted something from Truly, Blue Flame Ford, I think it was, off the Fast Stories from Kid Coma album. And I was friends with Robert Roth on Facebook as well. So Jordan's just being effusive in praise about him. This guy's a genius. I don't know why they were never bigger. I said, hey, Robert, this dude whose music I really like, loves your stuff. You guys aren't friends. You mind if I hit you, connect you guys? And Robert's like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I sent them both a friend request, and like a month later, Jordan's like, hey, I'm producing the next Truly single. It's like the first thing they've done in 15, 20 years. So I'm pretty proud of that one.
That's awesome. Nice.
And at that point, Jordon and I would just message once in a while when I saw something that he posted that was interesting. And at this point now, we just talk like every day. So So it's been pretty cool. And that's how I found you guys, was through Jordon, watching his posts of the sessions that you guys were doing. And so I listened to the little tiny clips. I'm like, man, these guys sound really good. I went back to Bandcamp and started listening to all the older stuff. I'm like, these guys are really good. So that's when I threw out to Jordon, I said, maybe I should have these guys on the show. He's like, yeah, you have to. All right, let's do it. Awesome. So thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for the praises, man.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. You guys have a bit of an early failure sound to you, which I love. And maybe I hear a little like maybe Quicksand in there, or maybe Medicine, Maids of Gravity, stuff that I loved in my real formative years of listening to music when I was figuring out what I really liked. And your sound is very reminiscent of that, and I love it.
Cool, man. Thanks.
So
thanks, man.
It started off as a one-man project with you, Jason, right?
Yeah. So I had been in a band called Sometimes Why for like 14 years, and I was the singer-drummer of that band. And that was like the band that I would like tour around and do things with. And near the end of it, I kind of just didn't want to play drums anymore. And I kind of wanted to have, like, it's tough being a singing drummer that writes songs because you're a singing drummer that writes songs. So, much to the chagrin of my old bandmates at the time, I was like, I think, we've run our course. Like, the last record we did was like the best thing we did. It's like, okay, let's end on this note. And I got like the GarageBand app for my iPhone. And I was at a friend of mine's house who's also a musician, and I happened to like make a drum loop and a guitar line. And I was just like, I can do this. I can just totally be a one-man band, thinking this is the best idea I've ever had. So I wrote Goodnight Myopia, and I went down to record it. And like right around day 6, I was like, this is the worst idea I've ever had. Because one thing you never realize when you're a one-man band is you're the only fucking guy that's doing anything. So you never have a moment to sit and listen to what's happening. You're just constantly, okay, I gotta do bass track to this song. Oh, I gotta do guitar track. Oh, I gotta sing here. Oh, and then like it's just you and like 2 engineers, and you're just like, I feel really alone. Like it was. I'm glad I did it, but it was,
and not as much constructive criticism, probably.
Yeah, and I'm not really a good player, so it has this.
You didn't have to tell us, Jay.
It has this overarching kind of.
I'm kidding.
Interesting suckage that goes on with it, and that record. But yeah, and then basically what happened after that was I put that out, and I guess John and I were talking about this last week. The old drummer from his other band, Sundiver, he's got his finger on the pulse and like likes to listen to new music. I told John about my band, and John kind of got into it, and it was funny because prior to that, one of my other friends from Kansas City's like, you got to check out this band, Sundiver. So I had been a fan of the Sundiver band for like probably a year. Okay. And after I released Goodnight Myopia, and decided, you know what, I really need to kind of turn this into like something that's not just me, because it's going to be a lot better if it's not just me. And so I reached out to John saying, hey, do you want to maybe work on some stuff? And we kind of chatted over the course of an afternoon, and then a week later he's like, hey, do you mind if I bring my guitarist and my other band Joe over? And I'm like, no. And then boom, and within like 4 months they came up here to Toronto, and that's when Failure was doing their first reunion tour. We all went to the Panther show, and we jammed for the first time in Toronto. And had a whole bunch of other things happen, but it was a cool trip. And then Little Creatures.
That I've been listening to that a lot today. I think that album up so far, I haven't heard any of the new stuff. That's got my favorite song on it. It's The Other Room. I absolutely love that song. I love how it ends. That like nice ethereal, ghostly chorus at the end. That's fantastic. I love it.
That's an Alan Epley special. So they had a lot to do with how that song ended. They, I highly recommend you go and check out the Life and Time stuff because it's well worth the dive. If you're really into that 90s kind of thing and everything we were talking about prior to this.
Oh, yeah.
Shiner and the Time investigation.
I've heard of the Life and Times. I don't know if that I've heard their music, but I've heard of them.
Yeah, and that has a lot of other elements too, like Radiohead, Flaming Lips, shit like that.
Cool.
But yeah.
So what's behind the name Vast Robot Armies? Because it sounds kind of ironic if you started as a one man band, like the bass drum on your back and the accordion and the cymbals on your feet. So,
real story. And I've massaged it into it. It sort of makes sense because to that point, like, a lot of this stuff was just written on GarageBand. So it's like, it's like a vast robot army of musician stuff on one-man band kind of thing. But really what happened was at the time I was doing a lot of internet dating and there was this chick that had the username Vast Robot Army. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to say this. And I typed in saying, I'd like to go out for drinks with you, but if we don't, I'm stealing your username for my next band title.
Oh, that's awesome.
This was on Christian Mingle, right?
Yeah.
I was waiting for Grindr, but that's it.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, it's not a great story surrounding it, but it's funny. Like, band names are weird. There was actually a moment when we're all up in Pembroke and we're at this place called Ulrich's buying a bunch of food for one of our barbecues. And people in Pembroke are super nice and they're asking John, going, "What's your band name?" And I could see him struggling to want to say it. Like, there's a level of embarrassment and a level of there's a lot of syllables and I can't enunciate it. It's like I recognize that moment going, oh, I bet you if this was our first record, there'd be a vote to change the band name at this point. But so we can't.
Man, it's funny because I hear that from a lot of bands that the hardest part was actually coming up with a band name, one that either hasn't been taken or one that isn't just stupid. And it's so tough. I like Vast Robot Armies. I think it's a great name. The guy I was talking to was Ian Everett from the band Solid Bronze, and he's just like, we came up with that. He's like, it's just the one that stuck because everything else we tried was taken. So like we came up with Solid Bronze. It was the only one we found that wasn't taken. So that's what it was. So.
Well, we can relate. There's like 3 other Sundivers that have popped up on Spotify
within the past 5 years now. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys are ever looking for something, I was in a band. I'm going to loosely call it a band. Me, who had never taken guitar lessons, my buddy Ed, who had never taken bass lessons, and my friend Scott, who had never taken drum lessons, and we didn't have any cymbals.
I have to mute you guys for a minute because my kid's freaking out, so I'm going to be muted.
No problem. That's not the worst thing I've ever had happen on this stuff. But we called ourselves Super Karate Monkey Death Car. So,
wait, say that again. Wait, slowly.
Yeah.
Super Karate Monkey Death Car.
Nice.
Car?
And
yeah.
Okay. Where did that come from?
There was a show back in the early mid-90s with Taya Leone in it. I'm trying to remember what this show was called. She was a reporter or something, and that was like a headline or something, or some part in one of the stories. Somebody was killed by this Super Karate Monkey Death Car. So I'm like, that's brilliant. I love it. So we were
taking it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and I knew we kind of knew we weren't going anywhere because none of us knew what the hell we were doing. But we just thought it was kind of funny, and so that one's open. If I'll lease that one out for a very minimal charge.
It's a pretty good one.
It's different. I will give it that. And it's funny because I did find another Super Karate Monkey Death Car at one point, if you can believe that.
Was this a show called Flying Lines, perhaps?
Damn it. I can't remember. Maybe I'll look it up while we're talking.
I'm IMDb.
Okay, yeah, IMDb Tay Leone. You throw them out randomly, and I'll let you know if that was it.
First guess.
Yeah, yeah, it was some TV show she was on. Oh, some sitcom. Damn it.
She was on one episode of Frasier.
No, she was like the main character.
Which I'm actually working my way through the Frasier series right now.
Man,
I found it on Hulu. It's on Netflix now too, but I'd watched
Frasier.
it growing up. It's incredible. It's a perfect sitcom as far as I'm concerned. It's right up there with Seinfeld.
Yeah, it really. And to be honest with you, Seinfeld, I got a little sick of because everything. You watch them so many times, I kind of get tired of it. And
I love Seinfeld, but Frasier is slightly smarter or something. And I didn't appreciate all of it when I was seeing it as a kid, but revisiting it now, it's like, whoa.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what else. Another one that I loved is News Radio. That was fantastic. Yeah.
I haven't watched enough of that, but I am aware of it, yeah.
Oh, that was Joe Rogan, Dave Foley, Stephen Root. Right. Yeah, it was just, the cast was brilliant. It was Phil Hartman.
That's going to be my next thing.
Oh, yeah. Phil Hartman, his character was amazing.
Love some Phil Hartman. Are you back? Did you change the diaper or what?
No, he won't go to sleep. He's actually laying on top of me now, wanting to talk to Joe.
Go on, that's cool. I'm good with that.
You can see them. There's Joe. Yeah. So I've got a kid, so I won't be able to answer very many questions because he's got to go to bed. I might have to drop off at some point again, though.
No problem, man. You do what you got to do. Right. Family comes first. Right. And I guess we'll try to keep the language PG at this point.
Oh, he's only 2. He doesn't know what to say. Yeah.
Good. Well,
yes.
No.
I don't know if you want to give John the reins to that car.
You don't.
He doesn't have earbuds on, so it doesn't matter.
That'll definitely be a Super Karate Monkey Death car.
I'm just trying not to get Coco Melon put on. He's like, I want to watch simple songs and Coco Melon. Like, nope.
Well, you know what? It's funny. You guys sports fans at all?
I am.
No.
Baseball.
A little bit, yeah.
All right,
it's a hard no for me.
American football, that is.
I'm a huge Washington Nationals fan, and they got Gerard Opara signed midway through the year, and his walk-up song, because everybody's got to have a walk-up song now. I don't know where that came from, but everybody's got to have a walk-up song. So
wrestling or something?
Yeah, exactly. So every time they come up to the plate, they play a song. And Gerard Opara's got his son's like 3 or 4. So every time he comes up to the plate, they play Baby Shark. And he comes up to the plate, Baby Shark, Baby Shark,
Don't start it. That won't stop.
We'll do a fast.
It's going to play in my head all night now.
We can do a Fast Robot Armies cover of Baby Shark.
That was a thing not too long ago. Everybody was doing a cover of that.
I knew the original. Yeah. I didn't know everybody was doing a cover.
Like who?
Tool.
I couldn't think of anybody, but yeah, I'm sure.
Pearl Jam, Tool. Jordon probably did one.
Wouldn't doubt it. He just hasn't released it yet.
Yeah. That's going to be one of his little singles off of the new album.
There you go.
All right, so let's get back on track. So it's the 3 of you guys, but you don't really tour at all because you guys are on... I looked on your site. It's 4 guys, basically 3 cities, 2 countries. So that makes it difficult to tour.
And it's really 3 guys. We used a different drummer now, and but yeah, it's the 3 of us are most heavily involved in the writing. But actually, Kellii had a pretty, and I guess Chris did too when we jammed with him, but kind of. Reshaped some things and whatnot. But so definitely an influence from them as well. But
oh yeah, there was a moment with one of these songs that we realized going in that Kellii had changed the entire song around.
Really?
It was all for a loop, every one of us, and we had all heard it while the other one was playing it, but it just turned into this little domino effect of, oh yeah, he did change that part.
Well, and
completely different.
I'd been practicing to Jason's demo or whatever. And had not been practicing to Kelly's drum tracks. So
oh, geez.
yeah, it was fine. It was fine. We got it. It all worked out.
All right, so you guys really can't do a whole lot of touring since you've got other commitments and you're so spread apart. How do you support the albums since you guys are far apart, no touring? Is it a lot of social media, or is there something else that you guys do?
Well, yeah, I mean, we rely heavily on social media. I mean, we're not a very big band as far as, I mean, we have a small fan base, but nothing crazy. But yeah, we've talked about doing shows. It's something that we would love to do. It's just kind of finding
the logistics to make that work is
right.
Kind of the challenge.
And I think this most recent album where, you know, for me anyway, I'm like, I want to play these songs live. So yeah, it's awesome. Definitely something that is an ambition. We would love to play some shows. It's just the opportunity hasn't presented itself. So
it's not like you're just avoiding it completely. It's just
no. It's it's in the back of our minds. But yeah, I'm not sure how that would work going forward. But it's definitely something that's been discussed every now and again. We'd love to make it happen if we can.
I'd love to see it happen. If you guys could get out to the East Coast, man, I would definitely go to a show if it was within a couple hours of me. Definitely.
Awesome.
But I'm in DC.
Is Chicago close enough?
I don't know. I like you guys, right? But when you going back to the first album, or actually I guess the second album, or somewhere in between, when you guys first really met, how did it work? Because you guys didn't really know each other very well. And most bands grow up, they evolve by playing and jamming together, and then a couple of years go by and they come out with their first album. You guys kind of did it the other way around. So
we did, yes.
Did you gel as a band or friends first? Was it easy?
It was definitely unconventional, and not like any other band experience I've had, which I've grown up playing in bands, and that's what I love to do. But with this, yeah, it was, we kind of just went into it a little blind on Joe and I's part.
And John and I were fortunate enough to actually be in a band together before this, so
right.
It was a little bit easier for us to coalesce with doing something new as a new endeavor.
And we still play in that band together.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's Sundiver. But
the original, not the 3 or 4 others that have popped up.
Yeah, not those guys.
Exactly. And we're actually planning on releasing our Sundiver full length, hopefully around the time this new release from Bastard But Armies happens as well, which we're thinking April. So
cool.
Hopefully all that stuff will be kind of happening around the same time.
Do you go into the studio with songs? Well, I guess you already answered this one. I was going to say, with songs full, the ideas in your head, or when you're in the studio, do they change a lot? Or do you search for sounds? Or have you had to do anything weird for sounds?
Certain songs change a little bit in the studio, but I think that's common in any type of demo scenario or just getting into a studio and working with a different engineer or producer. But the majority of our material, we send back and forth different GarageBand files or Logic files and collaborate on those for several months prior to going into the studio.
Right.
Writing different vocal melodies, reworking different parts that don't really feel right, or
and
whatever.
Joe and I, we'll rework bass lines or guitar lines or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on this new record, I contributed 2 songs that I wrote, so that was cool. And Jason kind of collaborated on those with me, which was nice because it was just on the previous 2 records, it was the opposite. We were just working on all of his ideas. So
by the time you guys got to the studio, everything was pretty much set until Kellii screwed it all up.
Yeah, until he fucked the whole thing up.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So okay, that makes a lot of sense to me now. So, now, but have you guys had to do anything strange? Like some of the guests I've had in the past have said they've had to one band to get the reverb on the vocals to sound the way they wanted to. the singer stuck his head in the piano and sang in the piano. I've heard stories of like Maynard, like Sylvia Massey had Maynard Keenan run around the studio like 6 or 7 times to get his voice worn out so that he could get the scream that she wanted. Do you guys ever have to do anything weird like that to get the sound that's in your head?
Nothing as elaborate as sticking our heads in a piano, but I did need to clear. Vocal sessions always come at the end of the recording process.
Tell him about the steam.
So Dr. Wells took real nice care of me. I'll let him tell the story.
All right. So John was getting a little congested towards the end of the trip. I don't know if it was seasons changing or different environment or whatever. But yeah,
vocal cords are fragile, man.
Yeah, he was having like a real squelched voice and his sinuses were all congested. So we ended up having to like douse his face in Vicks Vapor Rub and having him put a towel over his head and breathe in ginger water just to be able to clear out his. Oh my God! And
there's a pretty epic photo of it actually with Jordon standing in the background, just behind a cloud of steam.
But it ended up working out. I had to
hold my face over this pot for like 3 or 4 minutes or something with a towel over my head.
Oh my God.
And
basically cooked his face a little bit, but it ended up working out. It got all the shit out and he was able to sing again.
It really did work. It was quite effective.
And now it's a home remedy that you do just, for fun.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. What you're supposed to do.
If I'm ever smoking too many cigarettes or exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Just vapor rub, ginger steam, and a hot towel. Okay, all right, so I have a question for you guys about some promo videos that I saw. All right, so Joe, I saw a video where you were making some dank ass nachos.
Oh.
With some Monterey Jack, some cheddar, a cream cheese sauce for the chorizo.
Yeah.
So is there like a Vast Robot Armies cookbook maybe on the way?
I'll have to be honest with you. That night, I really don't remember how we made those nachos.
We tried to get them. You actually recreated it pretty well.
That's true. Just because we had the video for evidence of what happened that night. I wouldn't have known otherwise. But
he was kind of making like a roux over the stove. He really put his heart and soul into it.
Vast Robot.
It was really good though.
But the original video in Chicago, so we had had a bit of a night out, and Joe and I were
last night in Chicago, right? Before
was it the last night? I don't remember.
It was either the last night or the night before the last night.
Okay.
Because I distinctly remember you calling out Jay for falling asleep.
Yes.
Okay.
That's definitely a video.
I get really upset when people go to bed early on the last couple nights of the trip.
Yeah, well, it was like 2, it was only like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
What the hell's he thinking?
Deal.
Hi there.
What's up?
This is John.
It's Joe.
From Vast Robot Armies. Coming at you from Chicago. We are cooking up some shit right now at about 2:39 in the morning.
Making fucking dank-ass nachos.
Jason's asleep.
Being a little bitch.
We went out for some drinks. He went to bed early, kind of thing. So here, what do we have here? Hold on. All right. What is this, Joe?
This is a nice Monterey and mild cheddar cream cheese sauce that will dress our chorizo, onion, bell pepper nachos. It's gonna be fucking awesome.
I'm really excited.
I'm excited about it.
I'm really excited. Hello. So Joe and I made some nachos. They're delicious. My goal is to eat them before he gets back. Oh shit, here it comes.
Well, bars in Chicago stay open until 5 a.m.
So it might have been closer to 5 a.m. Probably.
Were we at what was that one bar, the Owl Bar? It was the one Eric Abert took us to.
God. I don't remember.
Which is really interesting. That bar in Chicago, I was listening to another podcast. This was a while back.
How dare you?
Okay, wait, I'm back here now, and I'm chiming in on this one. First of all, it wasn't the last night. It was like the third night there.
Okay.
These two fucking guys.
Joe, get your events in order.
I swear it was on the recording that we said that.
There was a Mothman sighting at the Owl. That's all I'm going to say.
What? Are you serious? My youngest daughter, she loves Mothman.
Yeah. So I kind of nerded out on that shit a little bit too, and I was listening to another podcast called Astonishing Legends, and they did this whole 4-part episode series on Mothman.
Wow.
And they talked about this bar in Chicago that we were drinking at one night, and apparently somebody that worked at this bar experienced a Mothman sighting, and it was national news or whatever.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. My daughter's got Mothman stickers on her cell phone case, on her books. She's obsessed with Mothman.
It's really interesting stuff, I think.
It is. She loves it. She's 14, and
awesome.
She watches Mountain Monsters. I think it's the show. A bunch of hillbillies.
You should check out Astonishing Legends. Be a great podcast for her to listen to.
I will pass that on to her because she watches. I think it's Mountain Monsters. A bunch of hillbillies from West Virginia run around the Mid-Atlantic looking for freaking Bigfoots and shit.
Sure. With Bobcat Goldthwait or whatever.
Now that would be a show I would watch.
Oh my God!
No, he actually he dabbled.
He did
in the whole Bigfoot thing. Yeah.
Oh my God!
And he made
he had a Bigfoot movie, didn't he?
He made a found footage film about Bigfoot. It's on Amazon Prime.
Oh my!
I just want dabble in Bigfoot. I think it's
I'm gonna dip a toe in the Squatch world.
Right. Well, yeah. I listened to him talk about it on some other podcast, and he was talking about how he'd go to the conventions, and he was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out about the whole thing, but it really fascinated him. So
that's insane. I'm just gonna dabble in some squatching.
That's right.
Yeah, no big deal. We dabble in things
learning some new languages, and I'm getting into Bigfoot.
I got Rosetta Stone.
Yeah.
All right, so the dinner music album. I have a question for you. You have a great song in there called Commodore. And it features Lisa Moses on vocals. Is that somebody you know? Do you guys collaborate with her often? Or is that... One of the things I always wonder about is on guest vocals, is it like when Soundgarden had that B-side, Touch Me, they had a lady named Stephanie Barber on. And this is the only thing she's ever recorded was this duet she did with Chris Cornell on a B-side. But it was... I guess they were recording it, and the guitarist was kind of bored, so he invited Bruce Fairweather, from formerly of Mother Love Bone, on down to the studio, and he brought his fiancée. She ended up singing on this track. Chris Cornell came in the next day and did his part, not knowing she had done it, and then they mashed the two together, and it ended up on a single.
Right.
So I'm always curious to see, when bands have guest vocals, how it comes about, because there's a lot of times there's weird stories about that.
Well, as with a lot of everything that, I've at least been involved with, it's really it was social media. You get into conversations with people online kind of thing, and you like enough of the same sort of things, and all of a sudden it turns into a chat. And then, they're like, I dig your band and I sing. And that's kind of how it unfolded with Lisa. We're just kind of corresponding. And it was one of those things where when I heard that song, I'm just like, this song needs something different to it. It's too much me going on in the vocals. So, and it was worth a shot, and she was into it. So she did it in a studio down there, which I want to say it's South Carolina, North Carolina. I'm totally forgetting now. I'm sorry.
West
I don't
Carolina.
want to say the wrong thing. Yeah, Central Carolina. It's not.
It added a great flavor
Virginia.
to that song.
It really did. So it was really nothing more than that in that sense. It was just like two people that really liked the same sort of stuff, and she was into it, and she was graceful enough to be willing to do it. So it was great. It worked out really well, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like social media is working out really well for you guys.
Yeah.
It certainly is.
So, did I ask? I think I asked you how you guys got up with Jordon. What was the experience like up in his studio? Because he keeps telling me that it's a great experience. He cooks fantastic meals. I have some amazing
we cook
beers.
fantastic meals.
Wait. He cooks fantastic meals.
See, he told me.
What is he telling you? What lies is he telling you?
Okay.
Now that's what he tells me. But now Kellii tells me his mom will cook you great meals.
I'm just kidding. I'm sure she does. I'm sure Jordon and his mother are lovely cooks. We, however, didn't experience any of that.
So here's the thing, just to frame it all. John and Joe, specifically John, the terminology foodie is
I don't know about that.
ish. But anyways, I learned early on, because I end up cooking all the meals at my house when I'm home, but I learned if I did it just poorly enough, John would take care of it. I learned it was great. So I'd purposely screw stuff up presentation-wise, and he would just do it.
He uses this method in other areas all the time as well.
But with the recording, it was really interesting to be, because when you've worked with someone for so long, like with Alan and Eric, you find a rhythm. Like, we would know what we're getting into. With Jordon, it took a couple days to like really suss each other out. And I remember at a certain point, like day 3, I was looking at Jordon and said, okay, I've got you figured out. So 3 o'clock's tea time. 6 o'clock is cocktail hour.
Oh, yes.
It's a nice meal, like around 7 or 8. And like, John and Joe did a great job. Like, John bartends also, so he knows how to make a mean drink. So that really, I think, impressed Jordon to the point where by the end of it all, he was just like, you guys are really up the game for anyone that's coming back here. As far as meals go, like
Joe handled the grill beautifully. I want to say he cooked that rack of lamb.
Oh, thank you.
Perfect. Yeah.
That was a nice
which
farewell
goes
dinner.
back to the spot in Pembroke, Ulrich's, that we became obsessed with.
Yeah.
It was this. It's like a German-owned kind of meat market cheese shop. I think that they have prepared foods, like prepared sides, just like the best potato salad, the best beets, just everything was really magical about that place. And that's where we actually first ran into Jordon when we first got to town, coincidentally as well.
Yeah.
He hit me with the door, actually. And it took me by surprise, and I was like, oh, sorry. For some reason, I apologized when somebody was hitting me with the door.
I'm sorry for hitting the door with my face.
But then I did a double take, and I was like, oh, it's fucking Jordon. I was like, hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Man.
But as far as the recording, it was amazing. Like, once we all kind of found each other's rhythm, like,
It was incredible.
He added so much stuff. Like, he guested on a lot of different things, stuff that I'm forgetting. Like, we're going back over video footage, going, oh yeah, he did that thing there, or
which we weren't expecting. He just kind of would go over and pick up the guitar and
get into it.
I've got this. He'd pick up. I remember on one occasion he picked up an acoustic 12-string, and he's like, "Oh, this is in some Joni Mitchell tuning," and he's like, "I'm kind of hearing this harmonic thing and this chord over this part," and we're like, "Dude, do it."
Like 4 seconds in, he played 4 notes. We're like, "Yeah, those are the 4 notes. Do that."
It was all around just an incredible experience. Just being out in the country, that far into on the border of Quebec, and it was just nice to get away from the city, and everything about the whole experience. He was great. So you can't really speak more highly about it.
How long did you guys work on each track? Because, like you were saying, it was 12 tracks in 8 days. Was that right?
Yeah.
That
Right.
seems pretty
We had a little
whirlwind.
bit of grace period because we didn't have to mess with the drum day. But,
that's true.
Which, I had mixed feelings about that. I really enjoyed on the last 2 records jamming these songs live for a day or two when we, arrived. That's what we did last time. That's actually how we recorded the drum tracks and the bass tracks for the previous 2 records. We just did drum and bass in a room.
Okay.
So it was different in that regard. But
do the previous 2 records, did you have about the same amount of time to record them, or do you use a little more time or less time?
Usually it's between like 7 and 9 days, but usually we only have like 6 days to do vocals and bass overdubs here and there and guitars and keyboards and stuff. So usually it's a bit more of a condensed schedule.
Wow.
But we wanted this time to like really kind of get into the songs. Like invariably we'd always be at the last 2 records, kind of like, oh, I wish we did this kind of thing. I wish we did that. I wish we had more time to kind of like get weird, so to speak, with some of these songs. So it was nice having this time. Yeah. The one thing I was telling Jordon when we're in there, I was like, you need a big white chart where we can write down all the songs and like the tasks stuff.
Oh, we love the whiteboard.
We love the whiteboard. We're all about the whiteboards.
and Xing things off when you get a guitar track finished or a vocal. Yeah. It's a very satisfying X that you mark up on the board.
There was an interesting point like 2.5 days in where we came in the morning and like, hey, can we listen back? Because we were just plowing forward. Straight through stuff without listening to anything. We knew it was good, but it was like, what is it?
Yeah.
And we had that moment. It was neat because all 4 of us in the room were like, hey, this is really good.
That's like awesome.
48 hours later.
I got to hand it to you guys. If you only have spending that much time on the albums, they sound really lush and well produced musically. It's just, they sound like you spent a lot more time than, a week and a half on it. So it's amazing.
Well, we did spend more time than a week and a half on them. I mean, we spent months kind of forming these songs, and so a lot of that work was already accomplished by the time we arrived there.
We're big into the pre-pro kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm loving the albums. Unfortunately, only coming to you guys recently, but I'm glad I found the band because I'm really enjoying it. The sound is right up my alley, so I'm really, really digging it. And I'm going to have to order one of those signed copies of Dinner Music that you guys have, assuming you have some of those left.
Yeah, we had a couple.
All right, I'm going to have to get one of those.
We had a signed copy? Am I not remembering this?
Well, we will have a signed copy we sent to him.
I do have a pen.
Okay. I have a Sharpie. I have a copy of the record. I have a bunch of them sitting in my room.
Yeah. Put 2 and 2 together, man.
Mark gets.
Look at that. See, I'm making my name now.
Right.
Well, guys, where can people find the music? Where can they follow you on social media? How can they keep up with you?
So we're predominantly don't have a website. A lot of our stuff's based around the Facebook page, which leads to the Bandcamp page. So we're on Facebook, which is Vast Robot Armies Facebook. And we're also on Bandcamp, which is Bandcamp/Vast Robot Armies. And then we're also on Spotify as well.
We're pretty easy to find, considering our strange name. Yeah.
Given the name, you can find it pretty much anywhere.
You can just Google it, and there'll be a lot of stuff
like
pops
20 pages in Google because of that name, basically.
Yeah. Fortunately, you guys are the first Vast Robot Armies that come up. So.
Oh yeah, we're like literally like 3 pages deep. Yeah. We're an SEO team, marketing team, dream.
Almost as unique as Super Karate Monkey Death Card, but
yeah.
Almost.
Almost.
Well, thank you guys so much. I've kept you guys for about an hour, so I thank you so much for spending the time with me, going over all this, because this is what's fascinating to me. I love talking to bands and finding out how you guys get your sound and where it came from and what everybody's up to going forward. So I'm really looking forward to the new album. Is there you guys have a settle on a name for the new album yet?
Oh yes, about that.
Oh boy,
that was conversations today. Actually,
we spent a good 3 hours kind of discussing this today.
Oh man,
odd because usually we don't have a hard time with it, but I think because I think we all feel this is going to be a a doozy of a record, so we kind of want to hit it right as far as the album title goes. So there are a couple, but we're waiting till we get mixes from Jordon to like sit down and listen to it and say, yeah, that's the name of it, kind of thing.
Awesome. And you said you're planning on like an April release, is that right?
Yeah. Awesome. So we'll be releasing a single sometime in January and kind of working up towards the April release.
Well, that's good. This show will definitely be out before then, I think.
Yeah.
So I've got a little queue of people coming in that I've got to release. But it's not like 4 months, 5, 6, 7 months worth. So I think we're good. I mean, we'll make it before then.
I'm really looking forward to making my way through the other episodes I haven't heard. So.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you do a good job on here.
I really appreciate that.
Really enjoyed the 2 episodes I've already listened to.
I was actually going to share a story because I realized we haven't shared stories, and I just thought of something actually that John posted. Do you have time for a story?
Absolutely. I got all the time in the world. You guys just keep going.
So it's about Troy. Is this about Troy?
Yes.
Oh, our boy Troy.
So we're staying in an Airbnb just outside of Pembroke in Petawawa. And
what?
Exactly.
Hey, Troy's going to listen to this, by the way.
Troy's going to listen to this. So we checked into the Airbnb about day 3, and Troy came by the next day to like turn on the hot tub because there's a hot tub at this Airbnb, which we're all stoked about.
Okay.
Troy came in and
both our Airbnbs.
Yeah, Troy came in and kind of blowed up the place. Like it was like, Troy's like, he's a year younger than me, so he's like in his mid-40s, and he's all like, you tell he's just looking for friends. He's telling me he's got grandkids at like 46. Just like, whoa, dude. And like, Troy's the kind of guy that played football in high school and probably crushed beers and this and that. And so we're all kind of humoring him and having a good time and kind of like, creating fictitious Troy stories in our head after he left, which took about 40 minutes to get him out of the house that we're renting from him.
He wouldn't stop talking. He wouldn't go away.
Had like,
Uncle
really nice
Rico
making Troy jokes for about a day, and then the next morning, there's a knock on the door at like 8:30, and we all have.
I think I'm rolling joints. I'm pretty sure at this point. Yeah, like
Troy's. We're making
rolling joints for the day.
We were making artwork on the dining room table with like leftover food. Like we're gonna do an Instagram post, and like there were like many different canisters of weed, and there was a drug box.
Leftover food. We'll call it leftover.
It was our Hunter S. Thompson box that we had.
Yeah, it was very much like frat party house in this nice house. We'd kind of wrecked it.
Some dank ass nachos.
Door, thinking it's just
exactly.
Thinking it's just someone from the neighborhood, and I open the door and there's a cop standing right there. And instantly, I'm 16 years old at a field party wanting to run in the opposite direction.
Two cops, Jay. It was two cops.
And I look over the first cop's shoulder, and that's when I see the second cop. And then it took a second to realize it was Troy, the second cop.
Troy neglected to mention he was a cop the entire time. We're like 5 days, 6 days in at this point.
So I know my face is like white as a sheet. So can I come in? I'm like, yeah, it's your house. So
it's your house. Come in, officer.
Yeah. As he comes in, I'm like trying, and the thing is, weed's legal up here in Canada. So I don't even know why I was so paranoid about it. But
it wasn't his house either, though. He'd already sold it.
That's another
thing about the whole deal.
That's true.
As he's talking to me, I'm like kind of sweeping stuff off his kitchen island into like cutlery drawers and like putting them in my pocket, going, yes, it's a very interesting story you're telling me, Troy. This is great.
No, I am not concealing paraphernalia in my pocket.
And being Americans, we're used to fearing, we're like, oh, we have weed. This is terrible.
Yeah.
But this is a really bad
Can I
situation.
scale the fence out back? Do we need to run away right now? That's what's going through our heads right at this moment.
Yeah, the Americans thought that one of them wasn't coming back from this story for sure. And so,
Then you're like, oh, wait, it's legal here. Okay, yeah. Cool.
And I'm so like not my normal kind of comfortable self to the point where about 10 minutes in, I sit down at his table and I look across at Troy and I kind of collect myself and I say, listen, Troy, I got to tell you, I'm not used to seeing a fucking cop at 8 o'clock. And he laughed and he was really cool about the whole thing. But
he was a super nice guy, ultimately. But that was a little bit of a flex
I'm
move
sure,
on his part.
I'm sure he knew what he was
like,
doing. Yeah,
showing
the whole
up in
time.
uniform, like, come on.
just to make sure we're not destroying his house, right?
Partner knocks on the door.
He's like, hey, your Airbnb host is a cop, is basically what he was saying.
Yeah. So don't fuck
with
it
me.
up. Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's a perfect story to end this with. Unless you guys have more. If you guys want to throw more out, you can always throw more out. I know you guys got other things to do, so I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I got to
Thanks for
finish
having us.
Rosemary's Baby, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, I think what you're doing is super important, and
thanks, man.
I think it's great. Yeah.
I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. All right, man.
Well, thanks so much for having us, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thank you so much.
Love to be back anytime.
Oh, absolutely.